So for the project, the first couple lines here, I'm just importing the RAM range and importing the turtle. And then I'm setting the parameters for the screen here and enabling color mode to the RGB colors. And then these two lines, I'm setting the parameters for the turtle Bryan, and then I'm just moving the cursor so I can display this on the screen more properly. And then the first function here is named square and has the arguments t, size, pen color, and fill color. And then the instructions for that function are that the turtle's color is assigned pen color, and then the fill color is assigned fill color, and then it begins the fill, and then the instructions for drawing the square are created with a for loop, where the turtle moves forward the size of the square, and then makes a left degree turn by 90 degrees 4 times, and then it ends the fill. So it draws one of these guys here. And then function 2 is named line of squares with the arguments t for the turtle, size for the size of the squares, fill color 1, fill color 2, and n for the number of squares. And then the instructions for this function are created with a for loop for the number of squares, and then the instructions call the function named square, so that makes it a helper function, evaluate the arguments where Bryan is the turtle, and then there's the size, and fill color 1 and fill color 1 again, and then I have fill color 1 and fill color 2 alternating here. And then after it draws the square, it picks the pen up and moves forward so it can draw another square. And so on and so forth until the number of squares n is satisfied. And then the third function here is named chessboard with the arguments t for the turtle, size for the size of the squares, color 1, color 2, and n for number of squares. And then the instructions for this function are again created with a for loop where the range is the number of squares, and excuse me, and then it calls the function line of squares, making that a helper function as well. And then it draws the line of squares with the following arguments, and then it picks up the pen, turns left 90 degrees, moves forward the size of the square, makes a left degree turn, and then moves forward the size of one of the sides of the chessboards, which is the size of the square times the number of squares, and then makes a right degree turn 180 degrees, and then it puts the pen down, and then I have the color alternator here, so that when it draws this line and comes back up here, you don't have this same color here, because if I don't have that color alternator, then I just end up with solid lines alternating colors, and that's not a chessboard. And then the third function, named line of chessboards, has the arguments t for the turtle, and then chessboard size, and then n for the number of squares in the chessboard, and then m for the number of chessboards in a line. So this is where I defined the color variables. I'm going to admit that I had them up here, or maybe even like up higher at first, and it just didn't work out, so I ended up putting them down here, and that finally worked. I am still trying to figure out why that is. If I can get some feedback on that, that would be really awesome. Thank you. And then I have the number of squares and the size of the squares set as variables here, where size is assigned the chessboard size times the number of squares, and then the number of squares equals n, and I'm doing that for counting purposes. As you'll see here, the for loop begins with the range of the number of chessboards. So the instructions for that for loop call the chessboard function, making that another helper function, evaluated at the arguments t, size, color 1, color 2, and the number of squares. So after it draws a chessboard, it picks the pen up and then it moves forward the number of, like the size of one of the sides of the chessboard again, which is again the size of the square times the number of squares. And then I added one because when I was running it, I don't know if I was just seeing things, but it did not look quite even, and that was bothering me. So I added one here, and it seemed to look a lot better. So I'm going with that. And then it moves right 90 degrees, and then moves forward the size of a chessboard again, and then turns left 90 degrees, and the pen goes down. So that's actually the direction to go. Sorry, I didn't mean to exaggerate that. It can come back here and draw this square, and then the number of squares in a line of squares increases by 1, and then the size of the square becomes the size of the chessboard divided by the new number of squares, and then I reset the color variables here because if I didn't do that, it would all be the same color. Or it would all be the same two colors, rather. And then finally, the final function down here is named square of chessboards with the arguments t, chessboard size, n being the number of squares, m being the number of chessboards in the square of chessboards. And then I have the number square counter here again, and then the for loop for I in range m, the number of chessboards in the square of chessboards, and then that calls the function line of chessboards, making that the final helper function. I feel like there's an inception joke somewhere in there, but I'll skip that. So anyhow, the line of chessboards has the arguments t, chessboard size, number of squares, and m. I think I was originally like trying to do some math there, so and then m. So then after it draws a line of chessboards, the pen gets picked up, it turns left 180 degrees, and then it moves forward the number of the size of this horizontal line here, which would be the size of a chessboard times the number of chessboards, and then I have the plus m here to compensate for this plus 1 up here to make things even again. And then it turns left 90 degrees, and then moves forward chessboard size plus 1. So that's it moving down, and again added 1 because it did not look even if I didn't do that. And then it turns left 90 degrees and puts the pen down so it can draw another line of chessboards starting down here. And then the number of squares in a chessboard increases again. Now that I say that, I think that might be superfluous here. I wrote this a couple of days ago, so I'm failing to remember if I tried to edit it accordingly, but I feel like I might have and it didn't work, so I'm just going to keep it. Please let me know if that's wrong. And then finally here, I'm calling the function square of chessboards evaluated at the turtle named Bryan, where the size of the chessboard is 200, and then the starting number of squares in a line of squares is 4, and there are 3 chessboards to a row, and that last one is a constant. Thank you again for the extension. I really appreciate it.